Hey guys, it's Exa and welcome back to my channel. If you are new, thanks for joining us today. And if you like what you see on this channel, please subscribe and hit that notification button so that way you can stay up to date on all of my new content. If you are returning, thanks for watching. I'm so happy to have you guys back. Also, if you've seen my videos before, then you've probably noticed that I always have a little bit over the top nails. And what you probably don't know is I do my nails myself. So to help get into the holiday spirit, today I thought I would show you how I made these really cute little Santa elf gnome nails using polygel. Because we're using polygel instead of acrylic, it's going to be a lot easier for a beginner to do this process because you can take your time with shaping and it will not cure until you put it in that UV light. Unlike acrylic, which dries at a certain rate, so you have to be kind of quick to make sure that you're getting your design how you want it before it hardens. So, let's get started.
So first, to get started, we're going to need some different polygels. So I have a nude color, a more of a pinky color that I'm using for the hats, and then this white color that I'm going to be using for the beard. If you don't have multiple colors of polygel, you can also just use the one color that you have, and then just some gel polish to kind of differentiate the colors and paint the layers. And next up, I'm going to be using some of this rhinestone gel glue. It's basically a clear top coat gel that's a little bit thicker, but this is totally optional. I just used it for a little bit of extra texture, but it's totally not required. So next, here's a couple polishes that I'm using. Fun fact, you can actually use regular nail polish, and if you put a gel top coat on top of it, it will function just like a gel polish. So here is my matte gel coat, and then I have a gloss top coat as well. And I also used a couple Sharpies to do the kind of plaid pattern on the background behind the hat, but this is, again, totally optional. And lastly, for tools, I did use this double-ended tool to apply the clear gel on top for that added texture. And I also used a kind of thin regular paintbrush to apply the silver shimmer in his beard. And finally, another small brush to apply and mold the polygel with. This one did come with it, and it has a spatula end for removing it from the container on one side and then the brush on the other. And lastly, I have this little nail stand thing to hold it for this example. If you're doing them on yourself or someone else, obviously you don't need this. And the last thing, which I actually forgot to grab a picture of, is having the slip solution to go with the polygel. So to get started, I'm going to take some of my nude tan color and start applying that onto the nail to make the base. If you are not using a pre-made tip like me and just doing them on yourself, obviously you can prepare this any way you want. But for this video, I did a press-on style with a nail tip base instead of doing a form or some kind of dual forms directly onto my nails. So I'm just going to go ahead and dip my brush in the slip solution. You can also just use plain rubbing alcohol if you don't have slip solution. It's way cheaper. And it works just as well. And just kind of spreading it down over the nail, trying to make a nice even layer across the nail. I do like to start with a thinner layer and then kind of build it up as I go, because I feel like sometimes when you start with that thicker blob right at the beginning, the underside doesn't cure fully when you're working with the kind of opaque polygels like this one. So once you feel satisfied with the shape and thickness of that, you can go ahead and pop it in your UV or LED light. So once we have that base nail done, I'm just going to file it a little bit to make it smooth. Since we are building up the face on top of it, it's not going to cover that entire nail, and also just the smoother surface makes it so much easier to get your design how you want it. So then I'm going to go ahead and start with my white to kind of build up the beard on the bottom of the nail. So I'm just doing the same thing for this first kind of base layer, just kind of spreading it out and getting it where I want it to lay for the beard, I am going about halfway up the nail for the beard for the proportions. Now you also don't have to be as neat with this and getting it smoothed out because you are going to be adding layers of beard texture on top. So it's totally okay if it's a little bit lumpy here. You kind of want it to be. And if you're working on your second nail, it's always good to put your first nail next to it to compare and make sure that you're getting the same sizes and proportions for your designs. So once I've let the base thickness built up and cured, I'm just adding a little bit more to kind of define that texture a little to get the kind of flow of the beard. And this is the cool part about polygel. You can totally just keep playing with it for as long as you want to kind of adjust and get the correct shape that you're looking for, and it's not going to set until you put it under that light. So up next, I'm going to be doing the cute little button nose. So I've gone back to using my nude color, and I'm just taking a really small little dollop for this. You're not going to need a lot because all we're making is a nose right above the beard. So again, I'm just going to shape it and just kind of play with it until I get the right shape that I want. I kind of want a little more oval than round with my nose, but honestly, it's totally up to you. You can make whatever nose shape you want. So next I'm going to make the kind of plaid background design before we put the hat on in front of it. If you don't want to do a design or just do a solid color, that's totally cool too. But this is what I did. So I started with a clear top coat and cured that. And then used my Sharpies to kind of draw on the design. I find working with Sharpies is so much easier to draw lines and shapes than trying to do it with polish. Another cheater tip right there, but you can do it however you want. You can make any kind of background that you like. But one thing to keep in mind with the Sharpies, it's always good to do the clear coat first and then draw the Sharpie on top, because if you're drawing it directly on the polygel, it tends to kind of bleed and spread and doesn't make the nice, neat lines. So I'm just going to go ahead and cover that with gel again on top to seal that part of the design. So up next, I'm going to get started on the hat, and I'm using more of a pink color for this. Mine is a little more transparent than I wanted for the hat, which is why I'm going to end up going over it with a solid polish. So I start with shaping the kind of top part of the hat, and then we're going to cure that and do the brim afterwards. So again, I'm kind of doing a thinner layer to get my shaping right, and then I'm going to go in with more detail. So I'm actually using the ball end on that other tool to kind of make my lines to give the hat some texture, but you could use a toothpick too if you wanted, if you didn't have this tool to kind of get the same shape, or you can just kind of press the brush in sideways, but I found this tool was the easiest. So for the brim, we're going to do the same thing, add another little dollop of that color and spread it down to kind of get the brim around. This is where you want to be careful and kind of shape around your nose so that way it's peeking out just the right amount. And be sure not to use too much for this because you don't want the brim to be like absurdly thick on your nail. And once I'm happy with the shape, I'm just going in with that same tool and making some little dots to it to give the brim a little bit of a fuzzy texture. So like I said earlier, I did go over this with another polish to kind of make the color less transparent. And you can totally do this for the whole thing if you don't have multiple colors of polygel as well. But again, you want to make sure you're kind of painting as you add the layers. It makes it a lot easier than trying to paint it once it's all done. So since I did use a regular polish, I'm just going to go ahead and cover the whole thing with some clear coat to seal it in. And I'm actually using the matte one for this, so I'm just going to go ahead and cover the whole nail because I really like matte nails. So I love the combo of having a matte nail with some sort of glossy textured detail features on top, which is what I'm doing here. I'm just going over the top of the hat details and adding a little bit more texture into the beard with the clear coat and giving the nail just a little bit of shine so the whole thing isn't just completely flat and matte. And then once you are done with that and satisfied with the amount of shimmer and detail that you've added, you are pretty much done. And finally, I went in with a little bit of silver glitter polish to just touch on the beard to add that tiny bit of sparkle onto it.
So that's all for this video. I hope you guys liked it. And if you'd like to see me do some more nail tutorials with my different designs I come up with, add a comment down below so that way I know you guys would be interested in seeing that. I really have no idea if anybody wants to see me do nails. As always, thank you for subscribing and watching my videos, and have a very happy holiday season. I love you all so much, and I hope your day is as beautiful as you are. Mwah!